Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Welcome back to an episode of Ministry of Truth. I am your only host on this show, and I will always be your only host on the show, unless I pass it to somebody that, because I'm feeling ill. Actually, I was still streaming when I had COVID. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to continue where I left off yesterday, and if nobody watches, good. No fucking big deal. Now I'm going to want to watch all this stuff, and I'm talking really fast. But whoa, what's up, Envy Rap? How you doing, brother? But before we get anything started, because I always got to start off with a good song. So the first song I'm going to have for you today is, well, I'm going to let y'all just listen. Go get your coffee. Go get your bagel. Whatever it is you guys do. Because I need to go get more cup of coffee. I totally forgot to fill mine up. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I sure hope this fucking thing doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever YouTube likes to do. So I will be right back. It should take me about a minute.
Y'all gon' make me lose my mind.
Up in here, up in here.
Y'all gon' make me go all out. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me act a fool.
Up in here, up in here.
Y'all gon' make me lose my cool. Up in here, up in here. If I got to bring it to you, coward, then it's gonna be quick. All your men have been in jail before.
Ow,
Suck my dick and all the motherfuckers you run with. Get done with, done quick. How the fuck you going poke the dog on some bum shit? They go to gun click. Now I'm one shit. All over some dumb shit. Ain't that some shit? Them niggas remind me of a strip club. Cause every time you come around, it's like, what? I just gotta get my dick sucked. And I don't know who the fuck you think you talking to, but I'm not him. I Slim, so watch what you do. Or you gon' find yourself very next to someone else. And we all thought you loved yourself, but that couldn't have been the issue. Or maybe they just saying that now cause they miss you. Shit, a nigga tried to diss you. That's why you laying on your back, looking at the roof of the church. Preacher telling the truth and it hurts. Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me go
Or we can
all
consider
out.
this church, but yeah.
Up in here, y'all gon' make me act a fool.
Up in here, up in here.
Y'all gon' make me lose my cool. Up in here, up in here. Off the chain, I leave niggas soft in the brain. This niggas still want the fame, off the name. First of all, you ain't rap long enough to be fucking with me. And you ain't strong enough. So whatever it is you fucking
Right?
with, they got you
Envy
thinking
Rap?
that you Superman. I got the kryptonite, and I smack him with my dick in the mic. Y'all niggas is characters, not even good actors. What's gonna be the outcome? Let's add up all the factors. You whack, you twisted, your girl's a hoe. You broke, the kid ain't yours, and everybody know. Your own man say you stupid. You be like, so?
I love my baby mama. I never let her go.
I'm tired of weak ass niggas whining over foot that don't belong to them. Fuck is wrong with them? They fucking up for real niggas like my mans and them, who get it all with the strength for their hands with them. Man, y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me go all out. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me act a fool. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me lose my cool.
Big Jack, what up? I'm in trouble, Joe. You only
Yo,
go
I'm in trouble, yo.
You know I'm the business, baby. You know I kind of dog. You right on that way on One.
Up in here, up in here. I bring down rain so heavy it hurts the head. No more talking.
All right. Woo! Hey, Carmen. How you doing this morning? Sorry about yesterday. I waited for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I was like, you know what? No. But it's okay. I did say songs. I'm going to get 2 songs this morning because, well, I felt like it.
And whatever. Drake, just let it run. Hey yo, turn the beat up a little bit. Hey yo, this song is for anyone. Fuck it. Just shut up and listen. Hey yo, I sit back with this pack of zigzags and this bag of this weed. It gives me the shit needed to be the most meanest MC on this earth. And since birth, I've been cursed with this curse to just curse and just blurt this berserk and bizarre shit that works. And it sells and it helps in itself to relieve all this tension, dispensing these sentences, getting the stress that's been eating me recently off of this chest. And I rest again peacefully. But at least have the decency in you to leave me alone when you freaks see me out in the streets when I'm eating or feeding my daughter and not come speak to me. I don't know you and no, I don't owe you a motherfucking thing. I'm not Mr. Instinct, I'm not what your friends think. I'm not Mr. Friendly, I can be a prick if you tip me. My tank is on empty. No patience is in me, and if you offend me, I'm lifting you 10 feet in the air. I don't care who was there and who saw me. Just joy, you gon' call you a lawyer, file you a lawsuit.
You know what, MD Raptors? Let me say that. Because my fucking cats will literally sit there on the tub looking at me.
I don't mean to be mean, but that's all I can be. It's just me, and I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? In the paper, the news, every day I am. Radio won't even play my jam, cause I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? In the paper, the news, every day I am. I don't know, it's just the way I am. Sometimes I just feel like my father. I hate to be bothered with all of this nonsense. It's constant and it's just lyrical content. The song Guilty Conscience has gotten such rotten responses. And all of this controversy circles me, and it seems like the media immediately points a finger at me. So I point one back at him, but not the index or pinky or the ring or the thumb. It's the one you put up when you don't give a fuck, when you won't just put up with the bullshit they pull, cause they full of shit too. When a dude's getting bullied and shoots up his school and they blame it on Maryland and the heroin.
I'm gonna tell you what's even worse. My the male cat, if I go take a piss and he's even remotely hears it from around the house, he comes running to my bathroom, even if he's downstairs, puts his paws up and looks over the toilet bowl. I'm trying to take a piss. I'm like, dude, you gotta stop this. And he wouldn't stop. So I had to get a new toilet that had the longer bowl. And now it makes it so much easier. I needed a new toilet anyway. I don't think this toilet was in place since the house was built. So I replaced all my toilets. It was time.
Where the parents at, and look where it's at, middle America. Now it's a tragedy, now it's so sad to see an upper class city having this happening. Then attack Eminem cause I rap this way, but I'm glad cause they feed me the fuel that I need for the fire.
I don't know what I was doing. I was supposed to go into the next segment. So those of you that know may or may not have heard, but apparently Sydney Sweeney's a Nazi. If you shop at American Eagle, you're also a Nazi. So what happens when a black woman goes into American... No, I'm not going to play this. I just wanted to play this because she's hot. Just so you know, this is what she looks like. That is the patriotic baddie. See? You can still say nigga and love black women. What's wrong with that? And she is a patriotic baddie. We're all Nazis today. Let me see if I can find that video. I don't know if they're going to let me play it on YouTube. But I have to go to my Instagram. Hold on. The gram. Messages. Who did I send it to? Jeff? What the fuck? Here we go. So just listen to it. I'm not going to pull up the video because it'll dox a lot of people. Window. Entire screen. Gutfield. Audio. All right. So just listen. This is Greg Gutfield. Once I can find the...
Not see that. I'm beginning to think they don't like us. You know what? I've said this before. We need to learn from the blacks. The way they were able to remove the power from the N-word by using it. So from now on, it's what up, my Nazi? Hey, what up, my Nazi?
My Nazi.
Hey, what's hanging, my Nazi?
Nazi, please.
Thank God you did a hard eye, Nazis. Nazi this,
hard
Nazi that. I'm beginning to think they don't like us.
I hope y'all heard that.
I've said this before. We need to learn from the blacks. The way they were.
He says the blacks like, what's his face? Jesse Lee Peterson. So yeah. What up, my Nazi? I don't know if you guys know this, but last week, sometime secretly, Ghislaine Maxwell, who agreed to testify, and I'm pretty sure she's agreeing to testify even more because she was just moved to Club Fed, which is a very minimum security prison in Texas, and pretty much it's like a resort. So she's going to be moved there. But why? For how? Maybe she doesn't get a pardon, and this is where she goes to. But yeah.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We do have some breaking news for you as we continue to follow the Jeffrey Epstein saga. Putting this up on your screen right now, this post from the New York Post. We are learning the U.S. Bureau of Prisons saying today that Ghislaine Maxwell has been transferred from a Florida prison to a lower security facility in Texas to continue serving her 20-year sentence for helping sex offender Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse underage girls. Maxwell's move from FCI Tallahassee, a low security prison, to the federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas, comes a week after she met with Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, who said he wanted to speak with her about anyone else who may have been involved in Epstein's crimes. Now, this also comes after President Trump said a bit earlier this week on Tuesday that Jeffrey Epstein, quote, stole young women who worked for the spa at Mar-a-Lago. One of those women, he said, was Virginia Giuffre, who was among Epstein's most well-known sex trafficking accusers. Trump's comments expanded on remarks he had made a day earlier when he had said he had banned Epstein from his private club in Florida 2 decades ago because his one-time friend, quote, stole people that worked for me. At the time, he did not make clear who those workers were.
Wait. But before he was saying because he was acting inappropriate with some of the girls. But now it's because he stole people from his club. It's kind of weird.
President Trump has faced some scrutiny over his administration's refusal to release more records about Epstein after promises of transparency. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's imprisoned former girlfriend, was recently interviewed inside a Florida courthouse by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, as I just shared with you a few moments ago. However, officials have not publicly disclosed what she said. Her lawyers said earlier this week on Tuesday that she's willing to answer more questions from Congress if she is granted immunity from future prosecution for her testimony and if lawmakers agree to satisfy other conditions. If you are just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, I did just want to quickly recap for you this breaking news that we are following.
There you go. Ghislaine Maxwell moved to Club Fed. I don't know if... Now, I know she's pretty much got nothing to lose. She's going to be in jail for 20 years regardless. What is she going to say, and who's it going to benefit? Because everyone's already saying, which I believe is true through some circles, is that Donald Trump knew that in May he was on this list, this client list, which historically we already know because he testified against Epstein in the 90s. But what is she going to tell that obviously is going to change, be a game changer? They don't just move you to a nicer prison for no reason. So, apparently Eric Swalwell, you guys know who Eric Swalwell is? Congressman. Slept with a known Chinese spy, Fang Fang. Well, he's trying to bring masculinity back. And Benny Johnson is bringing this to light. And when I saw what Swalwell was lifting, I had to think, I was lifting that same shit for a warm-up in the 9th grade.
Wall function is the body's response for excess Chinese food intake. The orange chicken creates pressure with only one exit to escape.
As you can see, the Swalwell function only applies to men who sleep with Chinese spies.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Let's talk about Obamagate, not the Russia hoax against Donald Trump. President Obama should obviously catch a case
Now,
for
keep
that.
in mind what
But the
Swalwell's
original
lifting is what I used to weigh when I was lifting that weight.
Obamagate, filmed inside of a gym where Barack Obama was filmed working out, barely able to lift 10-pound weights, heaving and crying and whinging, doing the kind of workout that girlfriend probably does, right?
That's your boy Obama.
And this, of course, begins the archetype of the Democrat male, kind of incapable of embracing their testosterone or really lifting anything heavy, scared of.
You want to do something fun? It may be looking weird that he's doing step-ups, but do step-ups for about 30 minutes straight. Do that. That's how I would prep for mountain races. Because you're always going up, stepping, and your legs will be jello if you don't train for it like that. I used to get on the track, and I would run a quarter mile, I would lunge a quarter mile, and I would do that for 3 miles. Let me tell you what, by the time, maybe the 4th or 5th time I did it, money. Anytime before that, you could tell during the lunges I was hurting. But I was still able to run. I'm too old for that now. Yeah, I'm not literally too old. I'm just too lazy now.
Worried about it, and doing dainty little Pilates-style calisthenic exercises like this. It was covered at the time.
What are you doing, dummy?
Because Obama was being filmed secretly, something that now happens quite often in the gym.
Obama working out in a gym. Not a big deal, but kind of a big deal. We don't really get to see this. And apparently the video was taken, Rosanna, a little bit on the sly, surreptitiously.
Well, I had nothing to do with it. This happened at a hotel in Poland, by the way. The video.
Obama's face here. Listen, everybody's on their own health journey. I'm not here to be a hater, but I am here to establish a fact pattern. The fact pattern is that the Democrat Party has a real problem with men. And no young male, especially a young male who wants to live a normal and prosperous life, wants to vote for Democrats because they're creepy weirdos and losers and really grotesque. Eric Swalwell, of course, fits that mold. Eric Swalwell is a member of Congress from
I just remembered. I think I might have been voting Republican. Not voting Republican. Maybe I was conservative as a kid, and only for one reason. When George Bush was running for election his first time, or second time, it doesn't really matter. I don't remember. But his opponent's name was Michael Dukakis. Us older ones, we can remember that. We were probably kids. But Michael Dukakis. And the only reason I didn't like him was because his fucking name. And then now look.
California. He recently posted this video.
Hey, Congressman. Can I help you?
What the fuck is up with Trump always chickening out?
He's always trying a microphone, so this is. That's funny he's saying that because now all of Trump's tariffs, they're starting to work. Oopsie.
I'm going to save you the next minute of your life by saying he just, like, houses a taco. That's it. That's all he does. He just,
a real
he just
man could have
shoves
finished
a
that
massive
taco
taco
in like a minute, 3 bites.
down his commie-loving gullet and then just eats the whole
he likes
rest of
to
the
sleep
thing.
with
It's
Chinese
like
spies while
a
in
complete
office.
slob.
Well known.
Eric Swalwell, of course, famous for crapping his pants on air.
Taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from...
And so the memes sort of write themselves, right? I mean, he is eating Taco Bell. It's never not funny. Eric Swalwell loves himself a good meme. Obviously, he throws meltdowns over them all the time.
In the hell is this? The chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating
he called them aliens.
They are. He's losing his mind over the meme. It's a great meme, by the way. What's not a great meme is Eric Swalwell trying to hit the gym and pump iron. He's really proud of himself in this new video that he posted. Reminds me of Obamagate.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit. Instead, Republicans sent us home because they would rather stand up for Donald Trump than release the Epstein files and stand up for victims. We could be a
Here's what upsets me about these Epstein files. Before a couple months ago, Democrats didn't give 2 shits about the Epstein files. They didn't even want to mention his name. But when they saw the conservative base turning on Trump because of these, they're like, this is our fucking chance. This is our chance. And what I've come to learn is people want these, on the left, they want these files to come out, not because they want to see all the pedophiles on it, but they want to see Trump's name on it. That's the way that's the conclusion I've come to. So their fake outrage is only because they want to see Trump's name on the list. That's it.
in D.C., lowering your healthcare costs, lowering your grocery costs, and restoring your rights. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm pumping iron at the gym.
Yeah, dude, my wife could absolutely, I mean, she was my girlfriend, but now she's my wife, and we've been married for 7 years. We have 4 children. She has a newborn, and she can definitely push more weight than you. Dude, that's 135 pounds. That's a 45-pound bar, and
45
on each side. Most prepubescent high school boys could bench that. And this is a grown-ass man, proud of himself, bragging to the internet about how he's able to push the kind of weight that I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene can absolutely outbench Eric Swalwell. See it in a bid to gain more support from men. Congressman Eric Swalwell posted a video of himself bench pressing at the gym. I should be at work. Instead, I'm pumping iron. This is their latest effort in gaining male voters. Here it is on TikTok, the original post. He's getting dragged for this really hard. Eric Swalwell does another cringe I should be at work video where he's in the gym halfway through a set of light bench presses.
All
he says
these
he's pumping
Democrats
iron.
are now jumping on TikTok.
The chat, always correct on this. 135. I was doing that in 7th grade. Only 135. Did you ever bring up the files when Biden was in office? Dems thinks this will attract male voters. Here we go. Here's the post.
What do you think,
Here's
ladies?
the ratio.
If your boyfriend only lifts 135, how do you feel about it?
Is that a lot of weight for her size? There you go. It's a grok. Yeah. I guess it's better to be pumped than pumping Chinese spies.
Oh.
You should fire whoever's coming up with these terrible ideas. 135. I am 36-year-old mom of 2, and I can also bench 135. This isn't the flex you'd think it is. Eric Swalwell, the cringiest member of Congress. So when did you work out? Bro, you're struggling at 135. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Democrat candidates are posting weightlifting videos in search for a midterm left. Yeah, okay. I lift that much when I was in high school. It's actually embarrassing. Beta male energy, probably why you support men and women's sports. Your social media team blows. All right. There you go.
What?
Gives you some great insight into the minds the Democrats think apparently have staffers that say, hey, you look kind of stupid in this video, struggling to bench 135 and taking up a squat rack. Maybe don't post this.
That's fucking insane, though. I guess, it's just funny to see him lifting 135 like it's, I'm huge. I'm buff. Dude's probably bigger than me. I think Swalwell is probably a little bit taller than me, which means he weighs more than me. But then again, I'm fat. Pretty fat. Weighed myself this morning. I think I was almost 190. And I don't like that. But it doesn't matter. So we're going to switch to a church, which this was on Officer Tatum's show, so he actually has this lady's sermon. And I don't know much about organized religion, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them look down on homosexuality. Even the ones that are very homo, like Arabs.
Well, here's an example. Pull it up on the screen. And there's people that go to this church. Believe it or not.
Yeah. Now seeing this the second time, look at the little figure she has on the bottom of her dress, I guess. It's me. Look. Right here. Can you see? No, you can't see it. My fucking mouse is gay. But there's she. Look down, and then you see me. It's me. I don't support this. I don't support this at all. What's up, Yeti?
Tons of people go to churches like this. Some of them don't have the signs in the church, but they preach the same thing this woman doing. Now, she kind of radical, but it's still the same thing. Matter of fact, the fact that she preaching in the first place as a pastor of a church is a problem, according to the scripture. But y'all don't have to believe me. I probably lost some of y'all on that one. Wrote a clip.
Word became flesh and lived among us, and my body, your body, their bodies are home for the living God. Yes?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Full of grace.
Mary.
Full
That's not
of
what the word
truth.
means, but okay.
That is why I take my 11-year-old boy to drag shows in the summer with my friend and fellow church leader Kate and her 11-year-old boy. I want him to know that there is no wrong way to have a body, especially if you're a man. That bodies can be celebrated and played with.
Whoa.
I want him to know that all bodies can shapeshift and be adorned with makeup and glitter. All bodies. I want him to know that there is no wrong way to live in his body, as long as his body is not hurting other bodies. Amen? I especially want him to know this if he turns out to be a heterosexual, able-bodied, and cisgendered man. I want to raise a boy who knows that he doesn't get to tell other people how to live in a body.
It's over, Tatum.
Lord, I need to repent. I almost want to repent for her.
Shut up,
watching
Tatum.
this.
Finish the
I
video.
feel like I'm going to go to hell watching this. What are you talking about? Put up. I know crazy. Get that of God. When you sinning before the Lord is.
I don't know if that's like a new. I get it. Gay people are entitled to their religion. I mean, they're entitled to any religion, just not Muslims because they'll kill you. She's sitting there doing her sermon, speech, whatever the fuck it's called. Pretty much saying she brings her kids to drag shows and lets them know it's okay if you want to be a homosexual. It's okay. I support that. It's okay if you want to chop off your penis and become a she. It's okay. I support that because Jesus died for our sins. Oh. Ooh. Uh-oh. So, if Jesus died for their sins, does that mean he forgives them and they can get into the kingdom? I think is what it's called. The kingdom of heaven. So basically, God is the king. All you religious people who don't want a monarchy, weird. Alright. So we're going to dive into a little bit of history. We're going to go over two very important... God damn it. Hold on. Fuck it. Yeah. We're going to dive into a few different things that tie into CIA operations that some of us may have forgotten. Just a refresher. And maybe we'll do a little history about a boat. A specific boat. A boat called the USS Liberty. But that's later.
This is not speculation. Every detail in this episode comes directly from declassified U.S. government documents. In April of 1961, the United States launched a secret invasion of Cuba. It was supposed to be quick, surgical, quiet, but instead it became one of the greatest foreign policy disasters in American history. Over 1,400 CIA-backed exiles stormed the beaches of the Bay of Pigs, and within 3 days, they were either captured, killed, or forced to surrender. The plan had been to overthrow Fidel Castro. What America got instead was a global embarrassment. In the months that followed, something changed inside the United States national security apparatus. Publicly,
Just remember, guys, since we did see JFK, he not once kissed the wall.
Washington claimed restraint. Privately, it was a different story. Behind closed doors, military leaders believed the only way forward was war. But with the American people still reeling from a failed invasion, public support wasn't guaranteed. That's when a new plan was drafted. One that would guarantee outrage, one that would rally the nation, and one that, if approved, would cross a line no republic should ever entertain. A plan that, if executed, would have killed innocent Americans on American soil, just to start a war. The plan called for hijackings.
Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? But this isn't 9/11.
Bombings, staged funerals, even a fake airliner explosion. And none of it was coming from a foreign enemy. It came from the Pentagon. This wasn't a rogue idea scribbled on a napkin. This was signed off by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They called it Operation Northwoods. So why would a U.S. military plan a false flag terror attack on its own people? And what does it say about the lines our leaders are willing to cross when they think no one's watching? Let's try and find out.
Hello, I'm Mike Joberg, Marine Corps veteran and filmmaker.
If I was in the military and they're like, we're going to do a full-scale attack on American soil, and I'm going to be like, if you're going to do a full-scale military attack on American soil against who? Americans? Well, guess what, buddy? I'm going to take as much ammunition as I can, and then, sorry, I'm going to fight for my country. Does that make sense? I'm not going to fight the American people, but I will fight aggressors.
And we will try to answer these questions on today's episode of Forgotten History.
Yo, I just thought of something. Seeing that dude's hair. I'm going to show you what my hair was like sometimes. I got to find it because it came across my time hop this morning. Like, I can't imagine myself with hair like that ever again. And I can't imagine myself without a beard. And if I try to shave my beard, I'm going to get a lot, and I mean a lot of pushback. Come on. Even if I joke about it, my wife and kids are like, no, don't you dare. Jesus Christ. Should have saved. Oh. Am I late? Look at that guy. Look at that guy. If I see that guy today, I probably won't recognize him.
The Bay of Pigs wasn't just a military disaster, it was a psychological one. For the CIA, it was a gut punch. For the Pentagon, a humiliation. And for the Kennedy administration, a PR nightmare. What most Americans didn't realize was that President John F. Kennedy had only been in office for 3 months when the invasion began. He hadn't created the plan, he had inherited it. A cockamamie CIA scheme hatched under the Eisenhower administration that was already in motion by the time he took the oath of office. The invasion had been sold as airtight, but in reality, it was underfunded, poorly coordinated, and based on a wildly optimistic assumptions about the Cuban people rising up against Castro. They didn't. The world watched as America's covert operation fell apart in real time. Castro paraded prisoners in front of cameras. Khrushchev mocked U.S. weakness. And inside Washington, patience wore thin. And once given the green light, the failure landed squarely on Kennedy's shoulders. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, America's top military leaders, began pushing for something far more aggressive.
I think this is a little interesting. So a former Russian president, and I guess current member of his ministry, made threats towards the United States. Donald Trump was like, I don't give a fuck if he was joking or not. I'm going to position 2 subs within the Russian waters, position them. And then turn right around and Russia's like, oh, we can position our subs too. And then I'm thinking, oh shit, the Cuban Missile Crisis, just like this, would put Russian subs closer to us. But then, knowing that they want to plan an attack, the U.S. wanted to plan an attack on its own people to create another war, didn't work. But they tried it again. That time it worked in September of 2001. Yo, my son can't park still.
They didn't want another half-baked mission. They wanted a full-scale invasion of Cuba. But there was a problem. The American people weren't interested in another war.
Like now.
Not after Korea, not after the Bay of Pigs. And without public outrage.
The American people don't want another war. Sound familiar?
There could be no political mandate for military action. That's when a new idea emerged. Not one based on intelligence or diplomacy, but on manipulation. If they couldn't win the hearts and minds honestly, they'd manufacture the crisis themselves. And in March of 1962, the U.S. Department of Defense submitted a proposal that would send shockwaves through history, though the public wouldn't learn about it for another 35 years. The proposal was called Operation Northwoods. And it came directly from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, America's highest-ranking military brass. And it wasn't just one bad idea, it was a checklist of chaos. The plan outlined a series of false flag operations, attacks that would appear to be carried out by Cuba, but were actually staged by the U.S. government. The goal? create a public justification for a full-scale military invasion. Some of the suggestions read like scenes from a dystopian screenplay. They included fake hijackings of commercial airlines blamed on Cuban agents, bombings in Miami, Washington, and even inside U.S. military installations. A drone airliner painted to match a real passenger flight would be remotely destroyed over Cuban waters. A list of fake victims, complete with staged funerals, would be published to sell the illusion. They even considered sinking a U.S. Navy ship and faking Cuban sabotage,
So in
or
62,
staging
they
a
had
deadly riot among Cuban exiles in Florida.
drone planes, drone airliners. Okay. Big ones in 1962. Okay. I guess we may have had that technology back in 2001.
Supposedly incited by Castro's agents. The memo even referenced history itself, suggesting a new Remember the Maine incident, a nod to 1898 when the mysterious explosion of a U.S. warship triggered war with Spain. They wanted to follow the same blueprint, manufacture a tragedy, blame the enemy, and rally the nation. One memo proposed assassinating Cuban refugees or American civilians to generate a helpful wave of indignation across the country.
Almost like
These
October
weren't
7th
theoretical
would've been the same deal.
suggestions buried in the footnotes. They were written in plain language, deliberate, cold, methodical. And most disturbing of all, the Joint Chiefs of Staff didn't just brainstorm the plan, they signed off on it. The document was approved by General Lyman Lemnitzer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and delivered to the Secretary of Defense in March of 1962. The final decision now rested with one man, the President of the United States. The Northwoods proposal was submitted to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, and from there, it made its way to the President. John F. Kennedy was just over a year into his first term, still weathering the blowback from the Bay of Pigs, still battling his own military leadership behind closed doors. But this time, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had gone too far. Operation Northwoods wasn't a military plan. It was a blueprint for domestic terrorism.
Oh.
The document was signed and endorsed by the most powerful generals in America. General Lyman Lemnitzer, General Curtis LeMay, General George H. Decker, Admiral George W. Anderson, Jr., and General David M. Shoup. General Lyman Lemnitzer wasn't some loose cannon. He was a decorated World War II veteran. Keith Lemnitzer and General David M. Shoup. General Lyman Lemnitzer wasn't some loose cannon. He was a decorated World War II veteran, a key architect of Cold War defense strategy, and the most powerful military officer in the United States, which made his approval of Northwoods all the more chilling. These weren't fringe actors. These were the Pentagon's top brass. And President Kennedy, he rejected it. No edits, no debate, no discussion. He shut the whole thing down. Lemnitzer was quietly pushed out months later, reassigned to a NATO command.
Oh, even better.
And Northwoods was buried, locked away in the classified vaults of the Pentagon, where it remained hidden for over 35 years. Operation Northwoods was never carried out, but its existence tells us something critical, not just about the Cold War, but about power. In 1962, the top military minds of America proposed terror attacks on its own people. And they did it so confidently because they believed the ends justified the means. That alone should have sparked a national scandal, but it didn't. Northwoods remained buried until 1997, when it was uncovered through a sweep of documents released by the JFK Assassination Records Review Board. The plan sat untouched in the Pentagon archives for decades, until a handful of researchers started asking the right questions. And by then, all of the architects were gone. And the Cold War they hoped to escalate was long over. For historians, it became a case study in how far democracy can drift behind closed doors. For others, it raised darker questions. Why would a government even consider something like this? What else might have been proposed and buried? Operation Northwoods wasn't some isolated idea. Elements inside the U.S. government had long considered psychological warfare and staged provocations. From World War II deception operations to Cold War contingency planning, the logic was always the same. If public opinion won't go where you want it, give it a push. But most of all, what would have happened if Kennedy had said yes? In the months after he rejected Northwoods, his relationship with the Joint Chiefs deteriorated. He grew increasingly skeptical of the CIA, the Pentagon, and even his own advisors. He publicly stated he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds.
Oh. JFK wanted to get rid of the CIA. Interesting. He wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Interesting.
And then, on November 22, 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Officially, there's no connection. But unofficially, Operation Northwoods remains one of the most compelling exhibits in the long, dark shadow of the JFK conspiracy theories. Because once you learn that America's own generals drafted a plan to kill Americans for political gain, suddenly, the unthinkable doesn't seem so far-fetched. Let us know your...
Almost like these false flags get us into war. We're not going to attack our own people. First of all, yes, you will. We're going to go into not... let me take that out. Oh, that's later on down the line. Get rid of that. All right, we're still going to do a couple more on these operations, and then there's more that I want to show you that really surprised me when I saw this, when it came to Netanyahu. Just listen to this.
Free and open. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no secret is revealed. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Get rid of secret society, secret organizations, really trying to, like you said, get rid of conspiracy thoughts. And he wanted to abolish the CIA. And I didn't know until like yesterday or day before that he also wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve. All right. So I've talked about this one. Some of you already know it's Operation Mockingbird. The next thing we're going to talk about how the CIA and I'm going to say the executive branch now, guide the media to show you what they want you to see through their eyes. And the shitty part is it easily was able to do that before we had the internet. And sometimes the internet makes it even worse.
First began to take shape in the late 1940s, shortly after World War II. And back then, the news felt sacred. Every evening, Americans tuned into the same voices, men like Walter Cronkite, Edward R. Murrow, and Dan Rather. Trusted faces who spoke with calm authority. They weren't just reporters, they were the nation's conscience. And when Cronkite said something, people believed it. But what if even that trust was manufactured? What if, behind those polished desks and deep voices, someone else was pulling the strings? Because as we now know, CBS, Time Magazine, and a dozen other outlets were quietly working with the CIA. And it wasn't to keep you safe. It was to shape what you believe.
Think about it. That's what the FBI was doing with Facebook and Twitter when they were censoring people, get rid of accounts, because they were counterproductive to the way they wanted you to think, especially around COVID and the election.
And here's the part no one wants to admit. It didn't stop. It just went digital. Today, the lines between the media and intelligence are more blurred than ever. And it all started with a little-known program called Operation Mockingbird. So if the CIA could control the media during the Cold War, what makes you think they ever gave it up? And when every major outlet pushes the same narrative...
And to think about what makes the Patriot Act. They keep changing the name, so Patriot Act is done, and then it was, oh my God, FISA. And now it's going to be Palantir.
Is that journalism or something else entirely? Let's try and find out.
Hello, I'm Mike Droberg, Marine Corps veteran and filmmaker, and we will try to answer these questions on today's episode of Forgotten History.
In the wake of World War II, the United States had two things: power and paranoia. The Soviet Union was no longer an ally, it was the enemy. And in Washington, a new kind of warfare was being born: information warfare. Enter the CIA. Formed in 1947 under the National Security Act, the Central Intelligence Agency wasn't just created to gather intelligence. It was built to shape it. Inside this new agency, a man named Frank Wisner was given a blank check to run covert psychological operations. His mission? Make sure the world heard America's version of the truth and silence anything else. Wisner referred to it as his mighty Wurlitzer, a metaphor for a massive instrument that, once played, could make any country dance to America's tune. And how would he play it? Not with tanks or troops, but with journalists. This wasn't a rogue plot. It was the official U.S. policy, signed off at the highest levels. By the early 1950s, Operation Mockingbird was fully operational. Funded through black budgets and hidden accounts, at its peak, the CIA had relationships with over 400 journalists across the globe. And not just reporters, but editors, publishers, broadcasters, and media executives. Some were recruited through back channels. Others didn't even realize who they were working for. And one of their first targets? The Associated Press. Soon the operation expanded to include CBS, Time, Life magazine, Reuters, and even foreign outlets. They weren't reporting the truth. They were reporting what the CIA wanted the world to believe. And the most disturbing part? Almost no one questioned it. Many were paid under the table. some in cash, others through lucrative book deals, speaking gigs, or consulting work. And in some cases, the CIA didn't just influence the story, they wrote it themselves. A journalist would receive a pre-written script, already framed with the right political spin.
1984.
All they had to do was slap their name on it and publish it. And it wasn't just news. Films, magazines, and even academic journals were shaped by CIA talking points. If it could sway public opinion, it was in play. The agency also created entire front organizations, phony press agencies that looked legit but existed solely to pump out US propaganda overseas. And if a journalist refused to play ball, they'd be discredited, blackballed, or quietly replaced. The idea wasn't to control all the media, just enough to guide the narrative domestically and abroad.
Yo. They're doing that to a lot of the liberal journalists right now. They're just getting dismantled and fired. Crazy.
And it worked. From the Korean War to the Cuban Missile Crisis, from Latin America coups to the jungles of Vietnam, Mockingbird wasn't just a covert program, it was an information war waged on the American people. During Korea, CIA front groups like Radio Free Press Asia flooded the airwaves with horror stories of communist atrocities.
True story. I'm technically a veteran of the Korean War because I was stationed there for 2 years. And guess what? That war has never officially ended. I remember that was the first place I actually got combat pay, no shit, and then hazard duty pay. And then they changed it like halfway through my second year.
Many unverified, only to have some of those same stories echoed in Life magazine and CBS broadcasts. In Latin America, the CIA orchestrated coups in Guatemala in 1954 and in Chile in 1973. Major outlets like the New York Times and Time magazine ran editorials framing democratically elected leaders as communist threats. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, selective leaks and scripted fear pieces helped build the narrative of Kennedy's moral high ground while ignoring America's own secret missile deployments in Turkey. And in Vietnam, embedded correspondents often repeated military talking points provided by CIA liaisons, selling the war as winnable, long after it had become a political quagmire. For more than 2 decades, Operation Mockingbird operated in the shadows, completely unknown to the public, until cracks started to form. In the early 1970s, the Vietnam War had collapsed into chaos. Watergate was unraveling the presidency, and Americans That pressure led to the creation of the Church, a Senate investigation led by Democratic Senator Frank Church, tasked with uncovering abuses by the intelligence community. What they found was worse than expected. From illegal surveillance to assassination plots, the CIA was exposed as operating well beyond its charter. They had called them conspiracy theorists until the documents proved they were right. And one of the most disturbing revelations, the CIA had infiltrated the media. Senator Church confirmed that the CIA had secretly placed journalists inside nearly every major news organization, using them to influence domestic and international reporting. The public was shocked, and the CIA promised it would never happen again. And just like that, it was buried. The media moved on. No one was held accountable, and Americans were told to go back to sleep. But there was a problem. No law was passed to stop the CIA from influencing the media. No executive order, no internal purge. Just a quiet promise from an agency built on secrecy. In other words, Mockingbird wasn't shut down. It was renamed, rebranded, modernized. Because by the 1980s and 90s, the CIA didn't need to slip envelopes.
What did you say? Rebranded and renamed? Weird.
To journalists anymore. They had built relationships inside corporate newsrooms. They had former agents working as consultants for major networks. And more importantly, the media had become centralized.
Oh, and it starts with the press secretary. Because she reports to the questions of the reporters, who then again report back to, their bosses on what they perceived. and then they push it out to their base. Is that an old dot matrix printer?
Fewer companies own more outlets, less oversight, fewer choices. By the time the 2000s arrived, Mockingbird didn't need to call a newsroom. They could just let the narrative trickle down from the top. And in the age of social media, everything got faster. Leaks, talking points, anonymous sources, they all became tools in a war for control of the public mind. Today, the same intelligence figures who once operated in the shadows are now on TV, telling you what to think. John Brennan, James Clapper, Michael Hayden. All former CIA or NSA, now rebranded.
Wait, did they say their main purpose is to tell you how to think? Huh. Why does that sound almost familiar? Not. Oh. Oh, so they want you to think the way they want. Okay.
As expert commentators. The old tactics were already back. Iraq was sold on lies.
Fuck that.
Yellow cake uranium, aluminum tubes, mobile weapon labs, pushed by anonymous sources and plastered across every major network. Afghanistan was framed as a righteous war on terror, even as it became a 20-year money pit fueled by contractors and false progress reports. And in Ukraine, dissent is once again taboo. The press doesn't ask if we're escalating a proxy war. They ask why you're not on board.
Yep.
Different decade, same script. The CIA didn't need to restart Mockingbird. It just needed a new reason for you to look away. They don't hide it anymore because the public stopped asking hard questions. That is, until 2016. That's when someone came along who didn't trust the press.
Who's that guy?
Who didn't play by the rules, and who called the media what it had quietly become, the enemy of the people. When Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, he wasn't just fighting Democrats. He was fighting something older, something deeper. He wasn't a politician. He didn't owe favors to the media. He didn't respect their rules. And worst of all, he called them out. Fake news, corrupt press, enemy of the people. It was a declaration of war against a system that had gone unchecked for decades. And suddenly, the tactics of Operation Mockingbird came roaring back to life. Anonymous sources flooded the headlines. Stories based on leaked intelligence dominated the news cycle.
Because, they're trying to say, like this specific one right here. Don't trust the media. Trust Fox News. Don't trust the media, but you can trust Fox News.
Former CIA directors like John Brennan and Michael Hayden went from silent operatives to loud political pundits, painting Trump as a threat to democracy. The sitting president was accused of being a Russian asset, on the word of unnamed sources from the same agencies that once ran Mockingbird. Major tech platforms.
You mean the one where Hillary Clinton signed off and Barack Obama signed off on the misinformation reports?
Began flagging, suppressing, and outright banning dissenting voices. Narratives that challenged the intelligence community's version of events were labeled misinformation. The same journalists who once asked tough questions stopped asking altogether. The old operation was back, this time dressed in hashtags and digital fact checkers. Whether you liked Trump or not, it didn't matter. What mattered was what you weren't allowed to say. You weren't allowed to question who suddenly had the power to silence you. The CIA didn't need to rewrite the playbook. They just needed to reopen it. Operation Mockingbird was never about keeping you safe. It was about keeping you in line. And the most dangerous part? It worked. For decades, people trusted the headlines. They trusted the anchors. They trusted the government to tell you the truth. Today, the same agencies that ran Mockingbird now shape the online world you live in. They don't need to burn books. They just bury stories. So ask yourself, if the press is free, why?
Another one, think about was it last week, the shooter at the Blackwater office? And CNN tried to tell you the shooter was possibly white. And people are like, oh, it's another white guy. And then the pictures came out, and everybody's like, wait a minute. That's a pretty dark white guy. I mean, even with a tan, it's not that. All right.
What if I told you that for over...
Hi, viewers. Welcome to Deep Dive America.
All right. Now that Mockingbird is over, now that Northwoods is over, there's a certain country that's been helpful, very helpful in pushing Operation Mockingbird with their secret intelligence agency, in conjunction with our secret intelligence agency. They like to create the false flags that get us into conflicts. And normally we work together. Normally. What happens when the other guy attacks us knowingly, and then we cover it up?
June 6, 1967, Israeli Air Force fighters attacked Egyptian air bases, destroying 80% of their air assets. By June 7th, the air forces of Jordan and Syria were also destroyed, mostly on the ground.
Sound familiar?
But the war was being monitored. The United States and other nations had a vested interest in what was transpiring in the Middle East, and gathering intelligence was critical for both political and strategic military planning.
The gators are on fire today.
What was the USS Liberty? Why was it in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea during the Six-Day War? Why did Israeli air and naval forces attack an American ship? Why was so much effort put into the cover-up after the event? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, a veteran of the United States Army and Marine Corps, former history professor, book author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. USS Liberty was a floating CIA intelligence gathering platform monitoring all transmissions from all sources involved in the 1967 Six-Day War. Israeli progress was followed, as well as the Arab coalition of Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, known as the United Arab Republic. As a result, Israel secured Sinai, all of Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. But Israeli intelligence had reported to Chief of Israeli Naval Operations, Admiral Issi Rahar, that a ship had fired upon El Arish in Sinai. This was proven to be a ruse. The only ship in that area was the USS Liberty, which flew the U.S. flag and was in international waters. In what was described by both President Lyndon B. Johnson and the Israeli government as a case of mistaken identity, Israeli air and naval assets attacked the USS Liberty on June 8th, killing 34 Americans and wounding 172 of the 294-man crew. Previously...
Wait, did they say Israel attacked our ship and injured and killed Americans? No way. No, Israel would never do that. They're our greatest ally.
The United States had announced that it had no naval forces within hundreds of miles of the battlefront on the floor of the United Nations a few days earlier. However, the USS Liberty was assigned to monitor the fighting. As a result of a series of United States communication failures, whereby messages directing the ship not to approach within 100 miles were not received by the Liberty, the ship sailed to within 14 miles off the Sinai coast. Also notified of the supposed attack upon El Arish were Colonel Shmuel Kislev, head of Israeli Air Force operations, and General Yeshayahu Benket, the head of Israeli Air Force intelligence. Kislev told his pilots that, quote, if they could confirm that it was a military ship, they could hit it, end quote. The naval contingent was also on the alert. Benneket wanted to have positive identification of the ship that may have been involved. Israeli Dassault Mirage fighters passed by and gave their report. The flight leader confirmed that it was an American ship. More Israeli fighters attacked at 14:05 hours for 20 minutes.
Oh, so they confirmed it was an American ship, and they still attacked. Weird.
Firing cannons, machine guns, and rockets, and one report from the first pilot who hit the ship stated that oil was leaking. During that time, on board Liberty, radioman Terry Halbardier and Glenn Oliphant followed the captain's order and broadcast in the clear that they were under attack by unknown forces and needed assistance, but their communications antennae were then damaged. They performed a manual repair and began transmitting in the open as their secure channel was being jammed. The Sixth Fleet received the SOS and informed the commander of the carrier task force on board the USS Saratoga, Captain Joseph Tully, who called and launched 12 F-4 Phantom fighters to assist Liberty.
Good.
And the hotline between Washington, D.C. and Moscow was activated. Moscow was informed that American aircraft were being launched only to surmise the situation regarding the Liberty, not to get involved in the war. But as the Phantoms were en route just minutes away from saving the Liberty, it was reported.
So Russia thought it was an attack on them. They're like, no, our ship's in danger, and Russia's like, all right, G. All right, we got you, my Nazi.
The Secretary of Defense, Robert Strange McNamara, mysteriously had them recalled. The only way a SecDef could do that was by presidential authority. Johnson.
Wait. So President Johnson, pulled back the aircraft that could have helped our people, our citizens, our sailors, our CIA operatives.
Knew the truth, and he was part of the problem. The next wave of Israeli aircraft arrived after the Phantoms returned to the Saratoga, and these were Dassault Super Mysteers with napalm and canister bombs. One pilot called out the ship's identification as Charlie Tango Romeo 5, and that there is no flag on her. This was a strange report, as the previous recon flight clearly stated that there was an American flag, and the ship was identified as such. It is believed that this call was made as a ruse to cover the Israelis should these attacks be recorded by third parties. When that transmission was made, Colonel Kislev ordered all aircraft to stop the attack, as he believed that the ship was, in fact, American from the call sign. But the Israeli commander of the torpedo boat squadron, Moshe Oren, stated that he was not informed that there was a recall from an attack, and was informed, in fact, that it was the Egyptian freighter, the El Qasir. Therefore, he launched 3 motor torpedo boats. The order to halt all attacks, which followed the second wave of fighters, was supposedly not received by the naval assets, whose 3 torpedo boats launched 6 torpedoes at the Liberty, with 5 failing to hit target, but the one that did contact killed 25 men and wounded many more. This account is in great dispute. However, the Israeli argument of misidentification fails for several reasons, one being that if they believed it was an Egyptian ship, why did they specifically jam the secure American radio frequency, which were specifically narrow bands?
What? So they're attacking us, they know they're attacking us, and then they're jamming our radios?
Another problem was the identification issue, in that the Liberty, at 10,150 tons, was 5 times larger than the ship they claimed to have mistaken for the Liberty. Both ships had totally different profiles. In addition, if the attack was a simple error, why were the Israeli jets unmarked, bearing no Israeli symbols, carrying no national identification, in violation of international law?
Israel.
Had the F-4 Phantoms from the Saratoga not been
unidentified aircraft. Do they still have these unidentified aircrafts? I bet you they do.
recalled, the torpedo boats would not have been able to engage, and the majority of the men would not have been killed and wounded. The official American position was that Israel called and said that they had recognized their mistake and the attack was over. So therefore, in response, McNamara recalled the jets. However, the attacks were then renewed for another 80 minutes. This was a strange development, since the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv reported that the Israelis had attacked a ship, but the nationality of the ship was yet undetermined by Israel. If this was true, how would McNamara know to recall the Phantoms, and that it was in fact the Liberty? The SOS was resent after the damaged antenna was repaired again, and it was picked up this time by the aircraft carrier USS America, and 2 ships were dispatched. 3 life rafts were deployed so men could get off the burning ship, but the torpedo boats focused their fire, destroying 2 of the life rafts and sweeping the decks to kill as many men as they could to prevent an evacuation. That act alone is a violation.
Wait, so they saw our evacuation boats going in. They fired upon said evacuation boats. But no big deal, right? So they're trying to save Americans that were attacked by Israel. And Israel's like, you know what? We don't need survivors.
Of the Geneva Convention, not to mention attacking a ship from a non-belligerent nation in international waters. Another strange development was when, after the 2-hour attack, the ship and crew headed to Malta, the 6th Fleet Commander, Rear Admiral Isaac Kidd, ordered the survivors to remove the ship's name from their uniforms. In fact, Admiral Kidd even ordered them to go ashore in civilian clothes, which the men were not supposed to have anyway. They were also told to grant no interviews and do not discuss the situation, even among each other. Otherwise, they would face court-martial and prison, or even worse.
So they went on shore unmarked, like they were just blended in, and then basically told, hey, shut the fuck up or your career is over. What? What an odd thing to do.
For violating national security. Both Israelis and Americans involved had their opinions on what happened and why. One voice was that of Navy Captain Dr. Richard Kiefer, who was wounded badly himself but worked for 28 hours straight saving lives when he could. He received the Silver Star. Captain William McConaughey received the Medal of Honor for his efforts following the 13 repetitious attacks.
Good shit.
After his bridge crew were killed, himself badly wounded. His recollection was that the aircraft hit the ship from every direction in multiple waves. Since the attack involved the Israeli Air Force and Navy, that made it a combined arms attack, meaning that it was coordinated, which also meant that command authority came from the seat of government. The military did not simply attack an unknown ship in international waters, let alone an American ship, without orders. All the crew believed that the ship was clearly identified as American, as there were reconnaissance aircraft that passed by close enough for the crew to look into the cockpits. Several high-ranking American military and political persons knew at that time that the attack was deliberate. The question was why. The cover-up was incredible. For example, the press was given limited information to downplay the event. The men were sworn to secrecy, and the Judge Advocate General of the Navy, Admiral Merlin Starling, was given only 24 hours to review the 600-page Court of Inquiry investigation report. He had great reservations about the veracity of the report. In fact, the Navy inquiry did not allow any testimony or evidence regarding the unmarked Israeli aircraft. No information was included about the life rafts that were shot up, or the electronics transmission jamming, or even McNamara's recall of the American fighters.
Why would they do that?
This was the first and only time in U.S. history that a board of inquiry refused to accept testimony from American service members who survived an attack and only accepted the statements of the forces that had attacked them.
My question is, if this attack never happened, then why were they awarded Silver Stars and Congressional Medals of Honor? If this attack never happened.
Bill LeMay, a crewman, was given the name tag Smith removed from a hospital ward with a dozen other patients and placed into a single room. A naval officer soon entered and told him that his name was now Smith, that he was never on the Liberty, and he was never to discuss the matter.
Some CIA shit right there.
In another completely absurd and totally insane turn of events, the Senate records, as well as the Medal of Honor Society, recorded that Captain McGonagall's Medal of Honor was earned in Vietnam, not off the Sinai Peninsula. His Medal of Honor citation mentions no specific geographic location and does not mention who the enemy was. Also, this ship's log was also altered to fit the Israeli timeline, supporting that only after 20 minutes of engagement, the ship was attacked for a total of 50 minutes and not 2 hours, breaking off contact after they realized their error. This was obviously not true. But why the cover-up? Why the attack? Over the years, logic mandates that the Israelis knew that the Liberty was a communications gathering spy ship and would be listening in on all communications, Arab and Israeli. Their push into the Golan Heights, as well as their attack in the Sinai, would have been recorded in real time by the Liberty. In fact, the director of the National Security Agency, Marshall Carter, stated that he believed the attack was deliberate so that Israel could maintain the secrecy of their operations. Sinking the ship and killing all on board was the only...
It was also to blame either Russia or the Arabs, mainly the Arabs, to provoke the U.S. to get into another war based off of Israeli lies.
Only way for Israel to have accomplished that mission. The CIA transcripts were handed to the American ambassador in Lebanon at that time. The transcripts clearly show that the pilots, upon reaching Liberty, reported that it was an American ship. Their war room ordered them to attack. Again, the flight commander repeated his warning that the ship was American. Again, he was told, "You have your orders," and the attack started. These reports were also supported by an EC-121 airborne surveillance aircraft operated by the National Security Agency, which also recorded these transmissions, confirming that Israel knew the ship was American. They even stated in their own radio transmissions that they saw the flag. And this was true for both the air and naval assets involved in the attack, contradicting their official statements.
Wait, I thought only the air people knew it was a American ship. So you're telling me the Navy also knew? Okay.
Came to light later was the justification for sinking the Liberty and killing the crew. Moshe Dayan, the commander-in-chief of Israeli forces, had ordered the attack. This was due to the fact that Israeli commanders in the field were authorized to execute Egyptian prisoners of war rather than lose time transporting and securing them. Israeli military historian Uri Milstein claimed that there were many incidents in the 1967 war in which Egyptian soldiers were killed by Israeli troops after they had raised their hands in surrender. It was not an official policy, but there was an atmosphere that it was okay to do it, Milstein said. Some commanders decided to do it, others refused, but everyone knew about it. Declassified Israeli Defense Force documents show that on June 11, 1967, the operations branch of the General Staff felt it necessary to issue new orders concerning the treatment of prisoners. The order read that, because existing orders were contradictory, thus: 1. Soldiers and civilians who surrendered were not to be hurt by any means. 2. Soldiers and civilians who possessed a weapon and failed to surrender would be killed. However, soldiers caught disobeying the order by killing prisoners would be severely punished. Now this appears to be damage control and could only have been issued from Dayan due to the Israeli knowledge that they did not destroy the Liberty and that intercept transmissions could prove these criminal actions. This appears to be a classic case of covering their collective rear ends. If this information were to have gotten out, it would prove that Israel was committing war crimes, and the Liberty was a known intelligence gathering source. Israel's legitimacy was already in question since they launched the preemptive strike on Arab airfields, as their intelligence supposedly had information that the Arab forces were preparing to launch attacks against Israel. American officials at the highest level would have known this, including President Johnson and Robert McNamara. It does not take a great stretch of logic to understand why the cover-up took place, and from where it originated. The United States could not afford to have its great ally Israel accused of war crimes. The USA and NATO also...
So, even in the 60s, they were our greatest ally. Allies don't attack each other, as far as I remember. We may jab at each other, but like this? No. Allies don't attack and kill each other.
also had great interest in seeing the Israelis win, because a victory would reduce the effectiveness of the influence the Soviet Union had with the United Arab Republic, which was the coalition of Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. It would also hopefully reduce...
Think about Georgia, Syria, and Egypt. So take away Georgia and Egypt, and who's still attacking Syria? And Libya? And the Gaza Strip? And Jordan?
The interest of Saudi Arabia in funding the United Arab Republic, triumvirate, if their efforts seemed to be a lost cause. An Israeli victory would have also ensured that the Suez Canal would remain open, which benefited the USA and NATO. The U.S. had good reasons for a cover-up. There are contradictory reports available where U.S. officials claimed to have debunked the murders of Egyptian POWs as the reason for the attack, supporting the Israeli attack as mistaken identity. That is also part of the cover-up, because later, murdered Egyptian soldiers were found in shallow graves, and the Israeli government offered reparations to the families of the men who were identified.
Wait a minute. So they mass executed Egyptians and then paid the families? Like, no big deal. My bad, homie.
In May 1968, the Israeli government paid $3.32 million US dollars, the equivalent of $28 million in 2022, to the U.S. government in compensation for the families of the 34 men killed in the attack. In March 1969, Israel paid a further $3.57 million, or $28.5 million in 2022, to the men who had been wounded. In December 1980, it agreed to pay $6 million, or $21.3 million in 2022 money, as the final settlement for material damage to Liberty itself, plus 13 years of interest.
That's a whole lot of money for, it didn't happen.
Several prominent Americans, generals, admirals, and even Medal of Honor recipients, as well as the surviving crew, have asked for a full congressional investigation into the attack and the cover-up for decades. Personally, I doubt that will ever happen. Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please...
What is it?
I'm not saying that we shouldn't trust Israel. But history proves we shouldn't. It does. And the one president that went against Israel, well, oopsie.
About JFK's assassination that triggers Zionists? Why do they pretend that it's an act of anti-Semitism to explore the environment and the things that JFK was adamantly opposed to? I'm going to describe that to you, and I'm going to use only Jewish sources here, so we can remove ourselves from any claims of anti-Semitism. These are just the facts of what JFK was fighting while he was in office, okay? One of the things that he was opposed to was the American Zionist Council. He wanted them, which would go on to become AIPAC.
Oh.
We're still having a discussion about AIPAC's undue influence in our elections today.
I know y'all have heard me talk about AIPAC.
They were back then known as the American Zionist Council, and JFK's Department of Justice told them that they had to register as a foreign agent under FARA, okay? And so it would color your imagination, obviously. If I'm saying all these things and you find out that I'm registered under FARA for a foreign country like Ukraine, you would go, okay, well, that makes sense. Candace is telling me that we should go to war with Ukraine, but I now know that Candace is actually accepting tens of millions of dollars from Ukraine. That's the purpose of FARA registration. If all you have to do once you become registered under FARA is to reveal your expenditures, reveal how you are being funded, allow people to understand where you are getting this money from, why would they be this opposed to it? I don't know the answer to this. I'm never going to know the answer to this, because what we do know is that a couple of weeks later, JFK got shot, okay? And what was running parallel to this, of course, was that he was on the phone arguing, screaming, having fights with Prime Minister Ben-Gurion of Israel, because he also did not want Israel as a state to become nuclearly armed, okay? And they're fighting on the phone. They still won't declassify these arguments that he was having, but they absolutely were at each other's throats and they hated each other. And he was very opposed to the Dimona reactor. This is something that you can even find in speeches like the Gaddafi speech.
ارجع الملفات لازم نعرفها. انا اللي نعرفها والعالم ممكن يعرفها واللي درسناها في التاريخ ان كندي قرر تفتيش مفاعل ديمونه الاسرائيلي. هل في قنابل ذريه والا لا؟ وعلشان كده تم تخلص منهم.
When you add those two things together, you go, okay, well, would it be a conspiracy to suggest that Ben-Gurion and the state of Israel hated him and he was opposed to them and he was opposed to them getting funding and he was opposed to them having undue influence in American politics, and then he dies? And then you weigh that against the fact that the problem for them instantly disappeared as soon as JFK died. Because what happened was that when Lyndon B. Johnson got into office, he was the vice president, all of their problems were instantly resolved because he reversed course on everything.
You make the...
Keep in mind, who do you think attempted to assassinate Donald Trump? Could it have been Israel? Who knows? Although, I'm more inclined to believe it wasn't Israel because, well, Kamala Harris being elected would have been bad for Israel. Donald Trump winning, completely different story. And we're trying to get rid of our partnerships with Israel, yet we still keep supporting them, even though we know they're committing war crimes. And we're the only country that supports Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to the ICC investigation for war crimes, which is weird because I just found out 2 days ago, again, I like to look shit up, is the United States is actually not part of the International Crimes Court. I didn't know that. Yet we still have a representative. Oh, we're going to go to another president who I guess is trying to tell the truth. Just like I believe it was Johnson said that he's going to have the Negroes voting Democrat for the next 100 years. And then Nixon let this slip decades ago.
Observation in your book, and you say that you have said it many times when you were president of the United States, that no president is ever going to desert Israel, right?
Correct. I put it more bluntly. I said, as I told congressional leaders during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, no American president will let Israel go down the tube.
All right.
Democrat or Republican, it's not an issue.
Let's replay that. Oh, it might be helpful if I hit play.
Going to desert Israel, right?
Correct. I put it more bluntly. I said, as I told congressional leaders during the 1973 Yom Kippur War, no American president will let Israel go down the tube.
All right.
Democrat or Republican, it's not an issue.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Why? Especially after the USS Liberty. Oh, this is before 9/11. Why, though? And then we're still like buddy-buddy with them? Our greatest ally?
Is stated fairly categorically, and yet in your book you make it clear at the same time that Israel really is not of any enormous strategic value to the United States anymore.
That's correct.
So why then would the United States continue to burden itself with huge loans, in some cases outright grants, to the Israelis, jeopardize possibly young American fighting men, when there is no strategic value involved, or little strategic
Because the United States is concerned by more than strategic values. That's maybe a weakness, but it's the way we are. And there are moral issues involved here. We don't have an alliance with Israel, as you know. They're not an ally of the United States in the technical sense.
Whoa. Whoa. Let's review what he just said again.
As you know, they're not are morally, that's maybe a weakness, but it's the way we are. And there are moral issues involved here. We don't have an alliance with Israel, as you know. They're not an ally of the...
Wait. We won't let them go down the tube, yet you just said they're not our ally. What a weird thing to say.
United States in the technical sense. But we have a bond to Israel that's much stronger. It's a moral commitment. A moral commitment because of what happened during the Holocaust.
Knew it.
And a moral commitment because it is
I was going to say that. Right around the time Israel became a state, the OSI became the CIA. The CIA.
Democracy. The only democracy in that area. And under the circumstances, that is why American presidents and the American people in the future will support all out the survival of Israel if it's attacked.
Oh shit. Hey guys, I need to replay that because I feel like I'm thinking what I'm not supposed to.
People in the future will support all out the survival of Israel if it's attacked.
You've always been a...
Oh shit, guys, I'm supposed to support the survival of Israel. And this is Dick telling you. Huh. And that's from the top. It's been out there for decades. And we're just supposed to be like, you know what? It's okay. We'll give him a pass.
Very tough, pragmatic man. And I just wonder if you were the president of Israel and you heard Richard Nixon talking that way, or for that matter, heard any sitting American president talk that way, and say, but there's really no strategic value anymore, how much faith would you place in that kind of a moral commitment if push really came to shove?
If I were the president of Israel, I put a great deal of faith in it because of the track record of the United States, and also because he would know that that is the way the American people are. There is no doubt whatever of our commitment to Israel.
So we're basically supposed to support Israel no matter what. Because they're our greatest ally who, in the technical sense, is not our ally. I'm so confused. And then let's fast forward to 2001. 2003 time frame. And this Prime Minister is talking to the US about what?
Saddam's regime. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age, something new is happening.
And that is speculation on your part, or you have some evidence to that effect?
I was asked the same question in 1986.
Was he supporting Iran there, though? But he wants to take out Saddam Hussein. So he wants us to do his dirty work. Okay.
I had written a book in which I had said that the way to deal with terrorist regimes, well, with terror, was to deal with the terrorist regimes. And the way to deal with the terrorist regimes, among other things, was to apply military force against them.
The way we did in Afghanistan.
The way, for example, I want to answer your question.
Well, I guess I'm running out of time, so I quickly was trying to get there. We've done, I think, what you proposed in Afghanistan, yet I haven't seen that sort of neighborhood effect.
So he proposed the invasion of Afghanistan, and he's proposing the invasion of Iraq. And they caused 9/11. And it's right there.
I think there's been an enormous effect. The effect was, we were told that there would be a contrary effect. First of all, people said that there would be tens of thousands of people streaming into Afghanistan, zealots who would be outraged by America's action, and this would produce a counter-reaction in the Arab world.
But I think you're not saying that when you take an action like we did in Afghanistan, we're going to see all the other countries just fold.
No, what we saw is something else. First of all, we saw everybody streaming out of Afghanistan. The second thing we saw is all the Arab countries and many Muslim countries trying to side with America, trying to be okay with America. The application of power is the most important thing in winning the war on terrorism. If I had to say, what are the three principles of winning the war on terror? It's like, what are the three principles of real estate, the three L's, location, location, location? The three principles of winning the war on terror are the three W's, winning, winning, and winning. The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes. The first victory in Afghanistan makes the second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier too, but it may change the nature of achievement.
Third victory? First of all, there was no victory in Afghanistan. Might as well get that off the table. There was no victory in Iraq. We just got tired of being there. Third victory. And guess who did all of that main fighting? You know, their greatest ally, who, in all the technical terms, are not our ally. I'm not saying that I'm targeting a specific group. I'm targeting a specific country. And they just happen to be from that country.
In this sense, Pat, when it comes to like, you know, Iran or Muslims and Israel and Jewish people, I'm sorry, just Israel in general. So, and I don't want to say lesser of the two evils, but in this game that we're playing, you're leaning towards the side because, I mean, one side's doing horrible stuff, the other side's doing horrible stuff. Are you going with the side it's more beneficial because the other side is more evil?
You know what it is, Candace? Guess what? Why don't she run in 2028 and her number one thing should be get rid of AIPAC and Israel lobby? See what it does.
Good luck.
No, what I'm saying is run on that. I'm actually not saying good luck. He's saying good luck.
I'm saying good luck. Yeah.
No, what he's saying is good luck, you win. What I'm saying is go see how many more people are for that. And that's America. Go prove your argument. Get support and run on that. Because when you're campaigning, a president chooses a handful of things to campaign on. You want Trump's top 5 to be Israel? No. By the way, every single president since Nixon days had a hard time negotiating with Israel. Every single one of them. And you know why it was? Half the battle for them was when Kissinger and Ford were pissed off and they came out with a plan and they what do you call it? Where it's like,
they brushed them off?
And Congress passed it.
Mm-hmm. But the House wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, they passed it.
Yeah.
Because Israel, the lobbyists, they had won over so many people in Congress that they were going to go that way because that's where the money was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know the Bowman guy that got replaced?
Yeah.
And who's the other guy? Ilhan Omar? Cory
Bush.
Cory Bush. Guess who got rid of those two guys? AIPAC.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want them in there or do you want them out?
I want them out. Yeah, so it's like a catch-22.
AIPAC helped you.
Of course.
This is such a
And the thing is, AIPAC, not just conservatives. The biggest recipient of AIPAC, I believe this last election cycle, was Cory Booker. Rewind. Yeah, I believe it was Cory Booker. Give me a second.
it's such a Tom, you look like you want to say something.
Tom,
Go
please.
ahead, Tom.
No, I'm sitting here listening, and what people have to understand, and I'm going to step away from all the inflammatory stuff. One point, I'm not going to comment on that. What Pat just said is very important. Nixon, Kissinger, Ford, Kissinger, Carter, Zbigniew Brzezinski, I think. No, Cyrus Vance. And you go through all the Secretary of States and the presidents. They're trying to negotiate certain things up here. And they effectively have term limits, 8 years, right?
Yep.
Well, it's like what Nancy Pelosi said about W. W may be here for 8 years. We'll be here a lot longer. We can manage it. Manage it. Israel functions almost like a senior senator. And what does a senior senator do? I'll give you the bridge deal. I'll give you the farm deal. You got my vote. But, hey, I need you on the pharma deal, and I need you on the crime bill. And it goes back and forth like that. That's what Israel does in our own Senate and Congress. So when they're out there at the foreign policy level trying to do it, Israel is responding the same way that Nancy Pelosi responded to W. Don't worry about it. We can maneuver around this because we've got other things in play. We'll get the bill we want. We'll get the defense spending we want.
In the House of Representatives, the largest recipient of AIPAC, actually the top 3 recipients from AIPAC are Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries of New York, Gottenheimer from New Jersey, and Torres from New York. That's crazy.
Get the foreign aid package we want. That's the way the game is played. So I'm not going to comment on all the other things. What it is they have become an incredibly effective country that operates even better than some of the biggest lobbyists that we have in our own government. Yeah. And you sit back and you look at it and you say, you don't have to like it, but that's the game. That's actually the political game. That's the way the game is played. And they're just playing it superbly well to get what they want. And the difference between Big Pharma, which is practically a country, in Israel is at the base level, not a lot. But they're getting what they want and what they feel their interests are.
But are we supposed to let them get away with murder just because the enemy is way worse at doing murder? That's my point.
Well, wait a minute. Hang on.
Yes.
Hang on. Back off.
Hang on. You're saying
hang
yes?
On. No, stop.
No,
Adam,
that's ridiculous.
Stop. Were you talking about Israel or Big Pharma?
Yeah, both.
No,
yeah,
but you see the point?
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, exactly.
Now you guys can go fight.
Here's what you're failing to understand.
Please tell me what I'm failing.
And you just think of this in non-emotional, reacting, like I'm in love with Candace Owens and everything she says.
You're in love with the
digest. I'm just saying.
Okay.
There's no perfect country on earth, bro.
I know that.
Do you though?
I criticized Bush while I was in the military. That's why I left the military.
Precisely.
So continue. Yeah.
So you've been critical of your own government.
1,000%.
You're critical
That's why
of
I love this country.
Kamala Harris. You're critical of Biden. You've even been critical of Trump.
Thank you.
That's how this works. You know, I said that, everyone has to choose their enemies wisely. And I asked you, the enemy of my enemy is my
friend.
You got it right this time. I love you.
I was messing with you.
So you have to put every country on a 1 through 10 scale. The countries that you're most aligned with are 8s, 9s, and 10s. I would argue there's probably not a 10 out there that knows every single one of our secrets. But in the 7, 8, 9 camp are your allies. These are your NATO partners. This is Israel. This is Japan. This is South Korea. Every single one of these countries we've had issues with. We've gone to...
And remember, he's admitting, yes, we have issues with Israel. But I forgot.
War with Germany. And now they're our ally. We've gone to war with Japan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've gone to war with...
We just heard Nixon say they are not our allies.
Italy. So at some point, if everything we do is, but the Nazis, oh my, Pearl Harbor, it's like you're never going to get ahead. So you want to do that. Oh my God, Candace once told me about USS Liberty. I get it.
No, she didn't. Me and Tom had that
Awesome. You found out for yourself. But none of this is new. The JFK conspiracies, the Bolshevik Revolution thing, Israel has been dealing with this forever. You think Israel is just this perfect country that is innocent, that has never done anything wrong?
They seem to think
no.
so.
Have they been held accountable for any of it?
Go ahead. Are you the
No,
guy?
they haven't.
No, I'm at. Okay, but you just proved my point. So you can't. Hold on, Adam. You just proved my point. So
you
and
don't
again,
have a point.
USS Liberty.
Your point is
USS Liberty. Dancing Israelis cheering. Cheering that not the fucking towers were coming down. Cheering. They all were part of intelligence.
Vinny,
They all get because you're full
Let
of
me ask
shit,
you a
Adam.
question.
No. Because you love Israel. You can't. Adam, they can do whatever they want.
I acknowledge
they can do whatever they want.
They are a better ally than enemy.
But you're saying they can get away with murder, Adam, because we're supposed to forget about it.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's horse shit.
Who has done worse things to America?
Okay.
Listen for a second.
Go ahead.
Don't be emotional.
No, how am I not going to be emotional?
Who has
with shit like
attacked
that?
America worse in the last 100 years? Germany or Israel?
Germany or Israel?
Yeah, who's had more deaths of Americans? Germany or Israel?
Israel.
This isn't a trick question. This isn't tough, bro.
We had a lot of Americans die just to make Israel possible. And then Israel gotten us involved into the Middle East with 9/11. So there's quite a bit more thousands right there. And now we're still in the Middle East.
Killing Americans.
Yes, killing Americans.
In war.
In a war.
Germany.
Okay, great. Who's killed more Americans? Japan or Israel?
Japan.
Okay. So why aren't you yelling and bitching about Japan or Germany?
Because they're not our freaking our
because why?
Because Japan and Germany, we finished. We have never started that combat again since we can remember. We're still fighting for Israel, and they're the ones getting us involved in all these wars secretly behind the scenes. Because they don't like the Arab world.
Because why?
Because their prime minister doesn't come to Congress and everybody stands up and worships him like he's Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's
because
the
they know
reason
who the guy in charge is, Adam.
Well, no.
They're not our. Hold on. Are they bigger allies? Do we give them as much money as we give to Israel? And they can do whatever they want. And you're failing to go back to what I said about Candace. You're not an anti-Semite. You don't hate Jews because you're criticizing Israel. And I get it. The Muslim world in Europe is doing what they're doing. I get it. But with zero accountability, that means, Adam, in 100 years from now, we're going to go, well, guess what? They did it, and who cares? Because they're our allies, so they can get away with murder.
So there's dozens of wars going on all around the world.
Yes.
Why aren't you talking about
who's
the war
the closest
in
ally?
Syria,
Because, Adam, my
Yemen?
tax dollars are going to what's happening.
Syria, Yemen. They're attacking those countries, and we're supporting them. We still have units in Syria. We have units in Iraq, in Kuwait, ready to go.
Happening over there in Gaza, Adam, and if you've been keeping toll of the death count of children and everything, that sits on my mind. Because at what point is that going to stop? So when is that going to end?
What other wars?
And by the way, again, wait, let me guess. Because I said that, I support Hamas and I hate Jews. Is that what it is?
I don't want to see any deaths of anybody.
Come on, man. But the numbers are staggering in the other way. When is that going to stop?
Good luck in this position you're taking, because all you're doing is aligning yourself with Iran.
Oh, here it is. See, and that's it. Because you always have to have take a side. Adam, how about this? America, I don't know how hard this is to understand. I am us first. I don't give a shit about Bibi Netanyahu. I don't give a shit about Germany. I don't care about France. I don't care about anybody but the United States of America first. Once we're secure, then we can go talk to other people.
Then, Vinny, unfortunately, you're a child.
Okay,
because
Adam,
every grown-up country has allies.
I never
and
said
trade
allies.
partners.
Adam,
yes.
Once you served in the military, then you could talk all the shit you want to me about being a child.
How do you process this exchange?
Let me just say one thing.
How do you process
because
Give me
what
a second,
you're saying,
Adam. How do you process this exchange?
What, going back and forth?
Between Adam and Vinny. How do you process it?
Vinny Vinny is taking a very passionate America First position, which I share. And Vinny is asking for accountability for modern day things that are, when I say modern day, things that are happening right now, things that are going on right now. And I thought it was a little disingenuous for Adam to kind of go back. Well, let's go back to 100 years. Who's killed more? Well, let's go back 200 years and let's make the Brits the ones, right? You go back to Revolutionary War, which I think is a little ridiculous. Honestly, you have to look at life as it is. What is going on right now? And what he's asking for accountability. Has anybody held Israel accountable? He's asking a question. And while he's putting it on top of, I can be America first and be very passionately America first and also recognize
Tom,
Israel as a
question
friend.
for you. Why hasn't Israel been held accountable?
I think that, well, I think you could look around the globe in terms of diplomacy. Why is any country not held accountable? Because they skillfully prevent themselves from being held accountable, and they make friends and do things in certain ways so that they'll say, look, I know you borrowed my car and you did a lot of damage to it, but I really need your help at school because we're both on the same football team. I'm going to overlook the car and we got to be teammates over here. That's how diplomacy works. Things get not overlooked, but things do not get prosecuted or things do not get held out because there's other things going on that people think are greater. That's how they either have something on you or you agree that going after this over here is bigger.
So what do you think
it's one of the two.
What do you think is a likelihood if you were somebody right now that is consulting for Vinny? Vinny wants to run for office, okay? And he wants to win. Would you advise him that if the idea is to win, the concept of going after Israel and hold them accountable is a winning formula as a number one?
Some of the greatest political consultants in history, Vinny, would tell you this. Vinny, what's your platform? Not 5, not 3, but you need 2. 2 core things of your platform. You're going to list 5, but 2 are really going to matter to you. Maybe one of them's America First. Now then, once we have that, Vinny, we're going to have what is the core statement for your campaign. And then we have what's called the big tent. And the
Tom,
big tent.
Just talk to me. I'm asking you, would you advise Israel being held accountable as a number 1 or a number 2?
No, I wouldn't put that in the platform and in the name of the
Why wouldn't you?
Because you're not going to win the voters you need to win. And it doesn't mean you step away from defending America first.
Right.
But if you take that other position, your big tent falls apart.
So more and more people are realizing who the real enemy is. And conservatives don't want to admit it. Well, a lot of them don't. But even they know the truth. So why not run on it? Because more and more people are getting disenfranchised with Israel.
The question becomes, so if since Nixon, Kissinger, since you can even go John F. Kennedy, you can go to Carter, you can go to all these guys.
Kennedy and Robert McFarlane.
None of these guys have ever been able to negotiate favorable terms for the U.S., why do you think that is?
Because either Israel has got things on us and we are not without sin, or they have been able to lobby successfully to talk us out of it. It's one of the two.
Okay, so which one do you think it's more?
I think there's probably a little bit more chess game on some of the stuff we've done CIA around the world, and they've got that. And they're also just incredibly skillful, omnipresent lobbyists.
So they probably also have some dirt on U.S. to say, hey, if you do this, guess what? Like the whole thing with Epstein, when his brother came over, and by the time he walked away, I was convinced both he and his brother were part of Mossad. And if I have to put money on the fact that Epstein has a lot of dirt on God knows how many people as a Mossad agent and sending those assets back to Israel, how valuable would that be?
Alive in Israel.
Very valuable. So I'll make my answer shorter because you're asking me to, and I will. It's either dirt or you've got leverage of mutual interest.
Okay, but stay on this here. Let's stay on this here. Say we have dirt, okay? By the way, do you believe most Jews are bad people?
No.
Okay. Do you link when you think about terrorism? Okay, when you think about terrorism, what do you think about when the word terrorist comes up?
I think about people using violence against citizens to influence other governments.
Okay, so let's go back to this whole concept with Jews. Vinny, both of you guys, you and Tom. So I want you to, let's keep going through this. Tom's going to give the history of it, and then we can give the opinion. So if you were to, let's just say everything you said is accurate. Let's say we find that it's 100%. You know, the Epstein. We can say right now 70% it happened. Let's say it's 100%. Let's say we get intel from somebody on the inside that's a diehard fan of the podcast, and he sends us an email and says, no, guys, this is not a maybe. This is 100%, okay? That's what Mossad does. That's what Israel does. That's when Netanyahu came, the standing ovation for him was bigger than anybody in the history of American politics that got up in front of the stage. And by the way, the standing ovation was bigger than Zelensky when he came here and gave a talk.
A lot of people boycotted Zelensky.
Right.
Not Netanyahu.
So if all of that is true, how do you fight against it?
How do I fight against the guy that's got 1% more dirt on me so that he gets what he wants and we're neutral?
You're an outsider. You're a journalist. You're a podcaster. You're an influencer. How do you fight against it if that's what they've done? If that's what they've done, and that's the intel that they have on so many powerful people in Pennsylvania, in D.C., in our Congress, if they have that kind of power against many billionaires, many people at the top that are on the Forbes 400 list of wealth, how do you fight against it?
There's one way, and that way is not a short-term way, because you got all these people are compromised, and they're standing there, and you can't just erase them. You have to go start a program to get more dirt on the other guy, or your guys, you have to clean up what you're doing. And it takes a long time.
It's a never-ending process.
But you're talking about decades of dirt on hundreds of people.
That's exactly right.
How do you fight? So, for example,
I got to have dirt on you so that neutralizes. Say, listen, you may okay. You're going to bring that up.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring these 5 up now.
What if that's why they want to collect all our information and our communication so they can run it through a more advanced AI and then know who to go after, more or what's coming?
It's a tie game. Which way are we going here?
Yeah.
That's where you have to go.
I get that, but I listen to Dave, and he's very eloquent on the way he gives his argument, right? You go through some of these guys when you're listening to their arguments.
Dave who?
Dave Smith. How do you go against that? The decades of intel by Mossad, bless you. The decades of collaboration between CIA and Mossad. How do you go against that?
It's very, very difficult. It's like looking at the pharma lobby and saying that you have got decades now of legislation and a entrenched corrupt system of donations for campaigns. And it's like in the US, it'd be easy. We'll just do like New Zealand does, and we'll...
Today is August 20th. For those of you that are competing for the Monect contest, Rob, if you can go to it, let me go to a different conversation with you. Recently...
All right, we got 2 more videos. And I know, this may seem like some anti-Israeli rant. It's a history lesson, and then views on people that other than me, other than you, history versus the CIA history versus opinion. And this dude, I don't know how I missed this one. Oh, it's from last year. This dude seems kind of weird. But at the same time,
when I watch some of your tweets, I don't know if you've announced this or not. I don't know if you've joined AIPAC. I don't know if you are, if you are an advisor for them. Let me read some of these tweets. Muslims aren't the problem. The open borders and motherfuckers and the media attacking nationalism, pushing DEI, transgenderism, and destroying moral values are the problem. August 4th. If you don't put America first as a U.S. politician, you are committing treason. Supporting Israel is bad for America. Netanyahu is a convicted war criminal, and Israel is not our ally. We fought way too many wars for Israel, and we certainly don't need to give them any more money. July 25th. These idiots have ruined movies. Everything they put out is literally propaganda. And then all of a sudden we got scripture here. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Is this recent, comments you're making about Israel a recent thing, or have you always had these beliefs?
It's more recent. I didn't really realize what a problem it was until recently, and then everybody was scared to say something about it. My brother told me, like, you can't say anything about it; they'll fucking kill you. Like, everybody basically said that I couldn't say anything about it, and actually now they're like literally like trying to like kick me off the board of my company because of those tweets.
You know what's crazy? And this is how I'd realize more and more people may think this way that I know, is that I'll hint at it, and then my buddy be like, you know what? And then it gets us into talk, and we're like, yo, that's why we like each other.
Like, shit, I've definitely had a lot of like negative pushback, a lot of my Jewish friends, but I don't give a fuck. It's like one of those things where I know that it's the right thing, and the fact that everybody else is scared to say it makes me, feel obligated to be vocal about it.
Why do you think it's the right thing?
Because I know that they're a fucking parasite. Like, they provide the U.S. absolutely no value. They've done so many things that, would constitute, an act of war against us. I mean, USS Liberty, Lebanon Affair, it can go on and on and on and on and on. But,
it's funny when he said that they're a parasite, because remember that joke I told you is like early 2000s, maybe 2003, 2004, to one of my Jewish coworkers. And I was like, dude, you want to hear a fucked up joke? Because we were doing fucked up jokes. And I was like, all right. And he's Jewish. We had 2 Jewish soldiers, and he was one. We called him the Hoboken Hustler. And he was, he even joked about Jews a lot. And I was like, hey, handler, what's the difference, or what did Jews and cockroaches have in common? He's like, let me hear it. No matter how many you kill, they just keep coming back. And like the room just went silent. And I was like, what? It's funny. And he thought it was a little funny, but he made me do push-ups for like 30 minutes. But just like his parasite joke, or I don't know if he's parasite, but I was joking when I said it, but not really.
I think they knew about 9/11. I think they had JFK assassinated. The first thing that he wanted to do, right before he died was, make AIPAC a foreign entity, and not allow them to have nukes. And then all of a sudden this fucking guy's dead. And Jack Ruby, who is Jack Rubenstein, it's just like, and then you just, I don't know, man, I can't ignore all the shit that they've done. They sold their secrets. Netanyahu lied to us about weapons of mass destruction. We fought all these fucking wars. My friends have died over there. And I just look at what they provided us with, and it's fucking, it's not nothing. It's like a negative, it's not, even if they just didn't do jack shit, that would be, bad, but they've actually done things to hurt us over and over and over again. So like this whole thing of they're our greatest allies, just complete fucking bullshit. And, we send them $100 billion, then they send AIPAC $100 million, and then they distribute it to our politicians, and every politician has a little fucking AIPAC handler walking around and telling them what to fucking say and how to vote. And it's just like, look, I'll donate like $100,000 to politicians, and they call me up like, hey, you need anything? Like every week. I don't need shit. I fucking sit on my ass. I don't do anything. I don't care. I don't fucking break any laws. I don't need any favors. Like, I just gave it to them because I didn't want to see any more fucking retard, Democrats in there.
Oh.
So, but
retard, good word.
That's 100,000. Like, what does 100 million buy you? How many fucking phone calls do those guys get? And so like, I just know how it works, and the system is broken. Like, these people get into office and they don't have very much money, and they get out of office with fucking tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a fucking accident, right?
Is that an Israel thing, or is that anybody?
You think like every one of these politicians, their little, their aides or their, little group, you think one of them, at least one of them, is a representative of AIPAC or has Jewish, oh my God. Just say Jewish relations. There you go.
Because China's doing the same thing.
China doesn't have they don't have an AIPAC. Like, Israel is the only one that has a fucking, like, a lobby in the U.S. fucking, giving these politicians money.
Okay, no, every country, the big ones all have lobbyists. They all have lobbying that they're doing.
Not in the U.S. They're registered as foreign entities.
Right. I mean, if you're talking about, are you going to the dual citizenship part with Israel? Israel.
That's another problem. Is a lot of our politicians have far more allegiance to Israel than they do the United States. I mean, that's a whole other issue as well.
Do you know why they did the dual citizenship? Do you know the history behind why they did the dual citizenship?
What do you mean?
Like, so the whole concept of dual citizenship was because when Israel became a country again, they didn't want the people from here who wanted to go back to Israel that didn't have a motivation to go if they were going to lose their citizenship here. So that was the reason why they did it. It was kind of like, okay, you're your own country. We kind of need some of you guys to move over there to help the country out. Yeah, but I'm not going to go. Why are you not going to go? Am I going to lose my citizenship here? But you are. I mean, we don't do that. Every other country, I don't want to lose my citizenship. Well, okay, how about if we do this? How about if we allow you, just Israel, to go back to your country, you won't lose your citizenship? That was the arrangement at the beginning why they did it that way.
No, look, I get it. I have 3 citizenships. You know what I mean? I think it's okay. I think
what's the third one? I know Armenia, but what's the
St. Kitts?
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have an issue with dual citizenship. My issue is when somebody is holding a U.S. office and they are putting a foreign nation's interest before America's interest, and they are favoring that other country. And so that to me is treason. Like when you are a U.S. government official, your motivation should be to do things in the best interest of the government that you are representing, not 100%. Some other fucking foreign country. And that's the problem.
Okay, so but go through it. So what is the solution? Meaning, if Israel's the enemy, then if let's just say you don't do anything and everybody in the Middle East unites to take out Israel, do you think the Middle East is better without Israel? And do you think the world's a safer place without Israel?
100%. It's not even close.
Okay, tell me why. Why do you think?
Give me an argument otherwise, please. Give me one argument why the world would be better off with Israel. Let's just start with that. One thing. Give me one thing.
Have you ever lived in the Middle East?
No.
I lived there for 10 and a half years. It's a very, it's not as like here. You can sit here, you can be an atheist, you can be an agnostic, I can be a Christian, he can be a Jew, he can be an LDS, Muslim, no problem. We can coexist here. You can do that in Israel. You can do that.
I mean, not really. They're operating apartheid right now. Everybody's not living equally.
Not at the level of Iran. Not at the level of what Iran is doing. I mean, in Iran, if you're thinking what Israel is doing out of control, do you know how much money Khamenei's families made? Do you know how much money they've taken? They have 200.
I've never been to Iran, but I've been to Dubai, I've been to Saudi, like I've been to UAE. So like, and they're all Muslim. They seem to be operating fine.
I would say Iran's slightly different than. But go back to it. So okay, so you think the Middle East and the world would be a better place if Israel didn't exist?
Yes.
Okay.
Israel's committed, so many terrorist attacks. They're stealing land right now. They're operating apartheid. They're currently committing a genocide on Palestinians. Like, do you believe in the genocide they're committing?
I think they're fighting for themselves and they're defending themselves.
Do you think that's defense? Well, when 1,200 people died, and of which the 1,200 you've killed, and admitted that you've killed a lot during your Hannibal.
I will tell you this. The part I question, where people who are Jewish can't stand when I say this, I don't know how you, Netanyahu, claim you have the best intelligence in the world, Mossad, and you didn't know that on October 7th they were attacking.
They knew about it. They didn't. They wanted it to happen, so they had a reason to take that. Yeah, they wanted a reason to take the land.
I totally get it.
And they killed their own citizens. And they claimed that all these people got raped. That was bullshit. They claimed beheaded babies. That was bullshit. Everything that they said was a fucking complete. Not only was it a lie, but they committed all those atrocities themselves to the Palestinians and been caught doing it. In fact, they just got caught gang raping Palestinians. How many babies have they killed? All the things that they accuse the Palestinians of, or Hamas of, or whatever, they're guilty of 100-fold themselves. And they've been doing that. Like October 7th wasn't the start of this.
It's not the Palestinians.
Like the start of this was Nakba. They've done so many different.
Disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I mean, this is not like, it's not like October 7th is like, it's all of a sudden they just came over there unsolicited and just killed people. Like they had been killing Palestinians for years and years, operating two sets of justice. It's like they have the justice for the Palestinians and the justice for the Israelis. And if you read the Talmud, like if you're not Jewish, you're basically not a human. You're like like cattle. If a Jew is killed by somebody that's not Jewish, then it's the death penalty. If a Jew kills somebody that's not a Jew, then you can't kill them. It's not the death penalty. Like they literally like segregate in their Bible.
They're very protective of themselves. I don't think anybody can debate that. I don't think it's a.
Well, it's not the problem isn't that they're protective of themselves. The problem comes when you think that you're better than other people, and you think it's okay to lie to anybody that's not a Jew. You think it's okay to steal from people that are not a Jew. You have two sets of standards. The problem with that is it allows you to rationalize anything, right? And human beings are generally self-serving creatures. So if your fundamental religious belief system allows you to operate in such a way that you believe there isn't consequences to stealing from other people, killing other people, raping, kids that are under 9 years old, like if you think those things are okay, then, how are you going to operate?
Yo, it's crazy when you think about these illegals that they are protecting from being deported, and you're finding out they're being guilty of those same exact crimes, and if you are against them being deported, you're a racist. Doesn't matter what crime they did. If they're here and they're illegal, they're protected.
Because to me, like, my moral code keeps me on track.
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's because you're saying it one-sided. You're not telling the other side of the story of what they're doing either. You're not saying what Hamas did. You're not saying what they did.
What did Hamas do?
I mean, from day one, when you see the rapes and the videos, we've all seen it. This isn't something
What rapes and videos?
But stay on this year if you want to continue with this.
But what rapes and videos?
But my concern when you're saying Israel's doing it, you're saying the other side isn't doing anything.
No, but I'm asking. There was no rapes during October 7th. They've shown no rapes from October 7th. They showed no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
I'll send you stuff. No, there's plenty of stories. It's not all of them.
Oh,
the Israeli articles that I saw recently said that there was only 2 babies killed. One was shot by a bullet, and the other one died in a hospital. There was no babies in ovens. There was no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
The big. Okay, so go back to the part when you said they think they're better than you. You believe that Jews think they're better than everybody else.
It says it in their Bible.
Okay, but you believe they're better than everybody else. Okay.
I didn't say they're better than everybody else.
They think.
The Bible
according to their scripture.
Okay, but what if...
And if you look at how they operate, right, like they literally caught people raping Palestinian prisoners, and there was riots. But the riots weren't because they were raping the prisoners. The riots were because they felt like they had the right to rape the fucking prisoners. That's why they almost had a fucking civil war, because they felt like they had the right to rape these prisoners. They felt like that was okay because they weren't Jewish. So, when you have a society that operates like that, you're going to have fucking problems. And they're not the fucking most moral army. That's all fucking bullshit. Everything that they say, it's just like almost like, listen, when somebody lies to me, like if you lie to me, I'm not probably going to trust you again. You lie to me a second time, I'm definitely not going to trust you. You lie to me a third time, and I let you lie to me the third time, I'm the fucking idiot. These motherfuckers have lied like 10,000 times. So, like, I don't believe anything they say anymore.
I come from a place of, I don't sit here expecting you to tell me 100% the truth. I don't sit here thinking, yeah, Dan's going to tell me 100% the truth with whatever he has in his life. I don't expect that from you, because I don't expect people to walk on water. That's not my expectation. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to live it with my life, but you can't think that China's going to tell us the truth, or Iran tells us the truth, or U.S. tells everybody the truth, or you think any country is going to tell us 100% the truth.
But I don't know, man. I got a different moral code. Like in gambling,
it's not about
but in gambling and business, like with my friend group, like you lie one time, you welch on a debt, you do one thing.
In friendship, though,
I'm just saying, my friends, people that I know, people that I do business with, people I gamble with, like
it's the same thing I have as well. It's the same thing most people have. There's a difference between
Israel and the United States to a friendship. Remember what Nixon said.
The personal side, then on the countryside. I'm convinced the future looks bright, and we want 1 million people to wear the Your Future Looks Bright. The USA hats.
I don't know. That guy seems kind of out there. He seems a little more too extreme to where he's a little bit blind to some of the stuff that really did happen. Because definitely there's rape videos. There's one that was a female singer from Israel, who I believe was from the United States. But Jesus fucking Christ, that dude has some serious problems. Hold on a second. Hold on, babe. You just connected to the computer.
Oh, because of this?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I thought this might. They're both black.
Thank you. All right. Here we go. My bad. Yes, and that's where people don't know about the Talmud, and the Talmud is actually way worse than the Torah. Now we're gonna do, well, how AIPAC, as we've seen, influences our politicians. This is a good review. Good review.
Why does the U.S. support Israel so staunchly? Shared values? A military outpost in the Middle East? Or an unending apology for Holocaust? Any of them or all of them would be the answer. Yet, it is noteworthy that the U.S. politicians, whether today or in the past, whether they be Republican or Democrat, vehemently pledge support to any Israeli action. This support goes much beyond alliance, but becomes the embracement of Israel's sick-minded Zionism.
You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist, and I'm a Zionist.
And we're going to make Israel great again, and we're going to make America great again. We're going to make them both great again, greater than ever before.
As long as I'm a United States Senator, I will do everything in my power to ensure broad and bipartisan support for Israel's security.
Oh.
Less than a month left for the U.S. elections, the same question keeps minds occupied. Is the U.S. politics strangled by pro-Israeli lobbies? Looking at the consequences of their activities, such as unseating certain politicians or ensuring further monetary aid from the government, the answer seems to be yes.
Good morning, AIPAC.
AIPAC, American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, which is the biggest pro-Israeli group but ironically ineligible to make any donations, has already officially spent more than $100 million in the electoral races via guiding individuals or registered lobby groups. Existing in the U.S. for almost half-century, AIPAC basically pushes members of Congress, presidents, and other elected officials to pass policies that unconditionally support Israel.
It's weird.
Up to today, the staunchest supporters of Israel within U.S. politics have received enormous donations from AIPAC, including the U.S. President Joe Biden, the now bribery-convicted Robert Menendez, Hillary Clinton, John McCain, Ted Cruz, and so on.
Bro, remember Ted Cruz said if you're not for Israel, he's not for you.
But AIPAC is not only this. Let's give an ear to American-Palestinian journalist and author Ramzi Baroud, who believes AIPAC is more than a simple lobby and has bypassed U.S. policy-making mechanisms entirely.
What is happening between Israel and the United States is not exactly lobbying in that sense. In fact, the largest, supposedly the most powerful lobby groups of them all, AIPAC, is not even registered as a foreign lobby group, as if you are part of the domestic politics of America. And this is, I think, is the greatest achievement of the so-called Israel lobby. Is not, number one, their ability to behave in a way that made Israel a domestic issue in American politics.
Furthermore, Baroud argues that most of American policymakers themselves were acting like a pro-Israel lobbyist.
The neoconservatives, which is the powerful ruling elite that had a great sway of power over American foreign policy during the George Bush administration, they are essentially all pro-Israel lobbyists. Many of them had dual citizenships. Many of them worked for Israeli organizations, Israeli companies, played the roles of advisors within the Israeli government, close to Benjamin Netanyahu and others. And they were yet the ones presented to the American public through American media, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and all the rest. They presented themselves as, good old Americans.
Obviously, the most striking example was Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who declared his support for Israel as a Jew.
I come before you not only as the United States Secretary of State, but also as a Jew.
Oh.
My grandfather, Maurice Blinken, fled pogroms in Russia.
Another example would be Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who also has given a speech in an AIPAC meeting. His words for Israel go beyond that of a statesman, but resembles that of a partisan.
We're going to continue to do everything we can to provide them the support that they need.
Unsurprisingly, New York Times questioned the appointment of Lloyd Austin to his current position back in 2020 for the fact that he was serving on the board of RTX, Raytheon Arms Company. The very same company has been providing various arms or military components to Israel.
When we say the word "the lobby" in his book, we're not really referring to a group of people per se, but we are referring to a massive apparatus that is embedded so deep in numerous aspects of American society. They coordinate, they work together, but they don't necessarily all come from a single group of people working for a single agency like AIPAC.
Bro, did you see who was all up there?
Single group.
Johnson, Hakeem Jeffries, Schumer. Not really sure who that old lady is.
Of people working for a single agency like AIPAC or any other.
Still, AIPAC's current concern is the upcoming elections. AIPAC proudly says all the Democrats and 193 Republicans that it has endorsed have won their primary races.
Oh. All the Democrats.
Things seem to be more undemocratic than they look. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, who has been the only Republican speaking against Israel's human rights violations, reveals how the system works.
Everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are, firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like this?
I may be the only Republican in Congress who hasn't done homework for AIPAC.
Only saying that killing thousands of people in Gaza were concerning him triggered.
And it's crazy because look who Trump's attacking out of the entire Republican Party.
AIPAC to spend nearly $500,000 against him, and White House to label him as anti-Semitic.
This election cycle, they spent $400,000 against me, $90,000 last fall running TV ads in my district and Facebook ads and whatnot. Now they're banned from my office. The situation went from bad to worse.
Massie was successful enough to survive AIPAC, but Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush were not.
Collective punishment of 2.3 million people is a war crime.
AIPAC has already started to spend against me in this race upwards of $20 million. Our democracy is not for sale. I need your help.
AIPAC has already said they're going to spend over $20 million to try to buy this seat from the people in the district simply because we support a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
Wesley Bell won against Bush.
Our relationship with Israel is not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. It is very much in our national security interest to stand with our Israeli partners.
George Latimer, who
It's funny, what do we have to stand if they have no resources we want? There's really no reason to be an ally with them, like they've said. Why?
To Israeli borders as our borders defeated Bowman.
That now we're going to have to take action because this threat is on our border. It's manifested itself in a vicious implementation of the threat.
Looking at what's happening to anti-Israel politicians, we can ask the question of whether the party of the next president would make any difference.
Is there a difference between Harris and Trump? I don't think so, because I think ultimately the foreign policy of America will continue to be determined by the same individuals, organizations, deep state, if you will, that has been managing American foreign policy for all these years. And just a very quick example to prove that this has to be the case, the United States Congress voted in favor of moving the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And every 6 months, and the executive branch, meaning the White House, would sign a document deferring that move 6 months at a time. All American presidents kind of did the same thing, Democrats or Republicans. What Trump has done, he decided, I will not defer it for another 6 months. This has been the habit for years and years and years. Trump has only speeded up that process. Now that Biden is a president, I mean, he had the chance to reverse many of the steps that Trump have made. To the contrary, not only he actually remained committed to what Trump has decided to do, he also doubled up on the whole normalization efforts. So will Harris change that? I don't think so.
As a matter of fact, Kamala Harris has also received donation from AIPAC amounting to more than $6 million.
Definitely more than $1 million.
What about Donald Trump? Even worse, as he is endorsed by Miriam Adelson, who broke up with AIPAC for it has not opposed giving humanitarian aid to Palestinian Authority. So if all the politicians, except a few, were under Israeli lobby's influence, why are they still spending millions? The answer implies a gradual change within the U.S. public opinion. Polls indicate that up to 55% of U.S. population is disapproving Israeli military attacks on Gaza. Only 18% of those who vote for Democrats approve Israel. This makes clear why AIPAC spends most of its money on Democrats.
There has been a shift in the United States, a shift that is unprecedented in the history of America's relationship to the Middle East in general and Palestine in particular. And the shift is a grassroots shift. The shift is not happening at the top. The top is not disagreeing on anything. In the empowering and the emboldening of specific progressive voices within certain areas where the support for Palestine is stronger, that would allow these individuals not only to be elected as to the local senates or the state senates or that sort of thing, but actually to the federal government's Congress as well. You know, this is a very, very important change, and it has been quite alarming.
With a stranglehold on U.S. politics, AIPAC has been putting its efforts to stop this bottom-up transformation. Nevertheless, the U.S. taxpayers' money and votes are largely controlled by someone else.
It's someone else runs the show.
Oh, yeah.
That someone else is not necessarily the president or even the party that rules over America.
Thank you very much. Not saying that alliance is, like he said, President Nixon even stated it on live TV. There is no alliance between the U.S. and Israel. We have nothing to gain from this alliance, nothing to lose from this alliance, except for taxpayer dollars and American lives over the entire global war on terrorism and even before. I said, I'm going to show you some historical facts. History. Whether it's the history they want you to believe, which is obviously that Israel is not bad. They didn't attack the American vessel knowing that it was an American. They were misidentified. The fuck out of here. What's up, DJ Fruit Loop? But anyway, unlike what Nixon said is, I'm not telling you how to think. I mean, Israel's telling you how to think through the government and the CIA. But I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just telling you to think. Open up your eyes. Open up a history book. Pick it up on YouTube. But anyway, I hope y'all have a good rest of your Sunday. DJ Fruit Loop, unfortunately, you showed up right at the end. But I hope y'all nonetheless have a good rest of your weekend. And, yeah. I mean, maybe Israel isn't that bad. By the way, I am not suicidal.